Ivy Monroe had always prided herself on being the responsible one. While her sister Lila chased dreams and boys with equal recklessness, Ivy worked double shifts, paid off her college loans early, and built a nearly flawless credit score. That gold credit card? It was supposed to be her safety net, a reward for years of discipline. So when she opened her statement on a muggy Thursday morning and saw the balance, $190,432.58, her breath caught. At first, she thought it was fraud. Some cybercriminal had clearly hijacked her card, racked up charges at resorts, luxury boutiques, and charter yacht companies. Then she saw the names: Kailua Bay Villas, the Hana Spa, Lanakai Dreams Private Charter, Paradise Concierge Air Service, and then Monroe Family Excursion Package. Her hands shook as she dialed the card company, her heart pounding. They confirmed the charges were valid. No, the card hadn't been reported stolen. Yes, it had been used with the correct PIN and security verification. And ma'am, the representative said with practiced cheer, the transaction was approved through your mobile app, but Ivy hadn't approved anything. She stood in the middle of her tiny apartment, thunderstruck, the walls suddenly closing in. Her phone buzzed, an Instagram notification. She opened it numbly, and there it was, a freshly posted photo of her parents and Lila, all three of them in front of a black sand beach, tropical drinks in hand. The caption read, "Best trip of our lives, 2 hearts hibiscus mahalo, Ivy!" The room swayed. They used her card. Burst open later that evening. Ivy had already printed the statement, highlighted every charge, and lined up timestamps against social media posts. Her mother entered first, tossing her sunglasses on the counter like she hadn't just destroyed her daughter's financial future. Her father laughed behind her, tanned and glowing, with Lila dragging 2 oversized bags in tow. "Surprise!" her mother chirped. "You drained my card," Ivy said, her voice low but sharp. The mood turned icy in an instant. Her parents exchanged glances. Her mother's expression flickered. Annoyance? Guilt? It vanished so quickly Ivy couldn't tell. Her father cleared his throat and stepped forward. "We were going to talk to you." "Talk? You blew $190,000 for a vacation I wasn't even invited to." "It wasn't just a vacation," her mother snapped. "It was for Lila's graduation. You know how hard she's had it. You thought I'd be your bank account." Ivy cut in, voice rising now. "You used me." Lila stood silently at the edge of the living room, arms crossed, eyes glassy. Ivy turned to her, searching for some shred of remorse. But Lila wouldn't meet her gaze. That night, Ivy barely slept. Every corner of her apartment felt tainted, her sense of security ripped apart. She lay awake thinking of every sacrifice she'd made for a family that had just casually emptied her future like loose change. And then, at 3:42 a.m., her phone lit up with a new message. "Unknown number. That wasn't a vacation. You need to ask them what really happened in Hawaii." Another followed immediately after. "You're not safe, Ivy. None of you are." Her heart dropped. Because suddenly, the betrayal wasn't just financial. It was something far, far darker. The next morning, Ivy sat at her kitchen table, staring blankly at the anonymous text on her phone. Her untouched coffee had gone cold. Outside, birds chirped in cruel contrast to the heavy dread thickening in her chest. Whoever had messaged her knew something. And, worse, they were watching her. In the living room, her parents laughed softly as they unpacked souvenirs. Lace, glass-blown dolphins, overpriced macadamia nuts. Her mother chatted about sunsets and snorkeling like nothing was wrong. Her father offered Ivy a gaudy Hawaiian snow globe. Ivy didn't respond. Then Lila stepped into the room. Gone was the vivacious party girl Ivy had grown up rolling her eyes at. In her place was a quiet, pale figure, with sunburn peeling on her shoulders, eyes rimmed in red. She barely looked at Ivy before slinking off to her room without a word. That wasn't like Lila, not even close. Ivy followed her, hesitating at the door. "Lila?" Silence. "I need to know what happened in Hawaii." Lila didn't turn around. She sat on her bed, gently rubbing her wrist beneath the long sleeve of her hoodie. The air between them felt fragile, like a string pulled too tight. "You had no right to blow through my money," Ivy continued, trying to steady her voice. "But more than that, you're not okay. What happened?" Still nothing. Then, just as Ivy was about to leave, Lila whispered, "It was supposed to be fun." Ivy froze. "What was?" Lila shook her head. "Just forget it." But Ivy couldn't forget it. Not after the texts, not after the way her father snapped at her for asking too many questions, or how her mother had flinched when Ivy brought up Silas, her mysterious uncle, long presumed dead and never discussed at family dinners. Something was deeply wrong, and everyone seemed determined to pretend otherwise. That afternoon, Ivy took a walk to clear her head. She didn't get far. At the corner cafe, she ordered an iced latte, and when the barista called her name, someone else stepped up to take the cup. A woman in oversized sunglasses and a straw hat. She walked off too quickly, never looking back. Ivy stood frozen, heart racing. She checked her phone again. The texts were still there. No name, no number. She tried calling back. Disconnected. Later that evening, while her parents watched TV and Lila hid behind closed doors, Ivy sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She scrolled through the photos from their Hawaii trip, Lila's tagged images, the comments. Everyone looked so carefree, but Ivy noticed details now she hadn't before. Lila's tense posture, her mother's forced smile, her father's watchful eyes scanning the background. In one picture, taken at a luxury beachfront villa, Ivy spotted something chilling. A man, just barely visible in the reflection of the patio door, dressed in black, face blurred, watching them. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "You're looking in the right direction, but not fast enough." Then, a second message came in immediately. "Ask your mother about the vault." Her blood ran cold. Because Ivy knew her mother never talked about anything she didn't want to. And whatever this vault was, it wasn't a safety deposit box. It was a secret. And someone was willing to destroy Ivy to keep it buried. The Monroe home had always been a theater of polite illusions, holiday photos, neatly ironed napkins, and secrets sealed behind polished smiles. But since their return from Hawaii, the mask was slipping. Ivy didn't knock when she stormed into the living room. Her parents looked up from the TV, startled by the look in her eyes. She tossed a printed photo onto the coffee table. It was a zoomed-in copy of the beach villa reflection, the blurred figure in black, watching them. Her mother's eyes narrowed. "Who is this?" Ivy demanded. "Don't lie." Her father reached for the photo but didn't answer. I said, "Who is this?" Her mother's jaw tightened. "That's probably just a staff member, a security guard." "Why would a security guard be watching you from the shadows? Why is Lila having nightmares? Why did someone break into my apartment last night?" That got their attention. Her father sat forward. "What are you talking about?" "Someone went through my drawers. They left no signs of forced entry. But they were there. They didn't take anything. Just looked like they were searching for something. And I have texts, threats, from someone who knows what happened in Hawaii. They told me to ask about a vault." Silence. Her mother paled. She stood abruptly and turned away, arms crossed. "There is no vault," her father said. "Someone's messing with your head." Ivy stared at him. "Don't gaslight me. I'm not crazy." Lila, who'd been standing just behind the doorway, finally stepped in. "Ivy's not lying," she said quietly. Their parents looked at her, stunned. Lila's voice trembled. "There was a man in Hawaii. I don't know his name. He met us at the villa. You said he was a friend of Uncle Silas. You and Mom kept whispering about him after we landed, and you told me to stay in the room when you met him." "I don't remember that," their mother snapped. "You're confused." "No, I'm not." Lila's voice cracked, but her eyes were sharp. "You told me not to ask questions. That it was, quote, grown-up business. You thought I didn't hear you say the word vault when you were on the phone." Their father stood slowly, jaw clenched. "Enough." Ivy moved protectively between him and Lila. "No, you don't get to decide what's enough. What did you do, Dad? What did you drag us into?" He didn't answer. His silence said more than words could. Later that night, Ivy sat in her room, shaking. She opened her drawer and pulled out a dusty old photo album, the kind filled with yellowing pages from her childhood. On the last page, taped beneath a photo of her 10th birthday, she found something she'd never noticed before. A handwritten note from Uncle Silas. "Happy birthday, my clever girl. One day you'll see that being the outsider is your greatest power. Love, S." It hit her like a whisper through the years. Ivy had always been the one left out, the one not told things, not included in conspiracies. But maybe that was the point. Maybe she was never meant to play along with the family's illusions. Maybe she was meant to break them. Uncle Silas Monroe had always been the family ghost, mentioned in passing, spoken of with a shrug, like a stain they never managed to scrub out. He was their father's older brother, a charming drifter with a crooked smile and a mysterious past who supposedly died 10 years ago in a boating accident off Catalina Island. There was no funeral, no body, just a closed casket and whispered warnings. Don't ask questions. But Ivy was asking now. It began with a name, Silas, whispered by Lila in her sleep. Ivy had crept into her sister's room after hearing her cry out. Lila's cheeks were wet with tears, her fingers clenched around the hem of her blanket. One word escaped her lips. Silas. The next morning, Ivy dove headfirst into the past. She went to the public library, one of the few places where quiet still existed, and scoured digital archives. Silas Monroe had been in real estate in the early 2000s, briefly. Before that, he worked as a, quote, consultant for several shell companies. IRS audits, lawsuits, and corporate dissolutions followed him like footprints in sand. Then, in 2015, nothing. He vanished off the face of the earth. But then Ivy stumbled across an article dated 8 months after his supposed death. Offshore accounts linked to Monroe Holdings investigated in Cayman Islands banking probe. Monroe Holdings. The company had been shuttered a decade ago. But now Ivy noticed a buried detail. Listed as a beneficiary of the account was someone named I.M., her initials. That night she confronted her father again. "You said Silas died broke, that he had nothing left but debt." Her father sat at the kitchen table, nursing a tumbler of scotch, shoulders hunched beneath the weight of something heavier than guilt. "He was broke," he said quietly. "He made terrible choices." "Then why are his accounts tied to me?" Ivy slid the printed article across the table. "Why am I being dragged into whatever web he left behind?" He didn't answer, but his hand trembled. "I don't know who's texting me," Ivy went on, voice low and hard. "But they think I have something. They think I know where his money is. And if I don't find out the truth, they're going to hurt someone. Maybe all of us." Her father looked at her with tired eyes. "He told me once before he disappeared that if anything ever happened to him, to protect you." "Why me?" "Because you were the only one who never wanted anything from him." That night, Ivy lay awake, her thoughts spinning. Her mind returned to that note from Silas, the one taped behind the photo. Being the outsider is your greatest power. What had he meant? And then it struck her. The strange gold credit card that had come in the mail months ago. She hadn't ordered it. No bank logo. No activation process. She'd dismissed it as a promotional gimmick and tossed it in a drawer. Now, she retrieved it and studied it again. One name embossed at the bottom. S.M. Not her name. His. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. The vault is just the beginning. Follow the trail or be buried with the rest. And just like that, Ivy knew. Silas Monroe never really died. He simply vanished into the shadows and left her to finish what he started. It started with the decline transaction at the gas station. Ivy had been running on fumes, both literally and emotionally, when her card was rejected. Again, she tried another one. Same result. Confused, she opened her banking app and was hit with a wave of nausea. Account suspended. Fraudulent activity detected. Her savings wiped. Her credit accounts frozen. Her name flagged. By the time she returned home, panic had taken root in her bones. She called the fraud department. The woman on the other end confirmed the worst. Someone had opened 3 additional cards in Ivy's name, authorized high-limit transfers, and routed funds through 2 offshore intermediaries. But I didn't. They matched your signature, verified by voice print, location confirmed via your phone's GPS. Only Ivy had never been to Bermuda, never spoken with any bank rep, never signed a damn thing. She hung up, her mind racing. This wasn't random identity theft. This was personal. Later that evening, Ivy scoured her laptop and phone for traces of spyware. She found a suspicious app hidden in the background, masked as a calendar tool, installed the week her family had left for Hawaii, by someone who had access to her apartment, someone who knew her passwords, someone who knew exactly where to look, someone like her parents, or worse, Lila. Her chest tightened. She didn't want to believe it, but every corner she turned, the evidence crept closer to home. Fueled by dread, Ivy checked her building's hallway security camera from the night of the break-in footage the landlord had reluctantly agreed to share. A lone figure appeared on screen around 2:12 a.m., dressed in black, face obscured beneath a hoodie. The person moved with eerie familiarity, head down, hands in pockets, like they belonged there. But it was the glint on the left wrist that stopped Ivy cold. A watch. She froze the footage and zoomed in. It wasn't just any watch. It was her father's. A limited edition Rolex with a cracked bezel he refused to replace because Silas had given it to him. The same watch he wore to family dinners, to her graduation, in every framed photo on the mantel. What was he doing in her apartment that night? She confronted him after dinner. I saw the footage. He didn't ask which footage. I know it was you, Ivy said, her voice sharp and cold. You broke into my place. You went through my files. What were you looking for? Silas's money. His passwords? Her father's eyes flashed, then went flat. You don't understand what you're digging into, he said quietly. Then make me understand, she shot back. He hesitated, then stepped closer. I was trying to make sure you were safe. By stealing from me? He said nothing. I'm your daughter, Ivy cried. You're Silas's legacy, he whispered. That's not the same thing. He walked away. Those words echoed in her skull all night. Not the same thing. At midnight, another text came through. Unknown number. They've all played their part. Now it's your move. You have 72 hours. Ivy stared at the screen, heart pounding. Her world was unraveling, and the people she trusted most were at the center of it. And somewhere, in the shadows of a dead man's legacy, was a puzzle piece only she could place. Ivy had avoided Lila since the confrontation with their father. The silence between them was a wall, thick and cold. But that night, Ivy found her sister sitting on the fire escape outside their apartment, the city lights blurred behind her tears. I can't do this anymore, Lila whispered, voice cracking like fragile glass. Ivy sat beside her, the cool metal railing biting into her skin. Then tell me what's going on. What happened in Hawaii? Lila hesitated, fingers twisting nervously around her hoodie strings. It wasn't a vacation, she finally said. It was a meeting. A deal. Something I was never supposed to be part of. Ivy's heart clenched. Who did you meet? Lila swallowed hard. A man. He called himself Silas's executor. Said he was managing my uncle's estate. Ivy's breath hitched. Estate? You mean the money? Lila nodded, eyes darting nervously. He handed me a package. A small box wrapped in paper. I was told to deliver it to Mom when we got home. Why didn't you tell me? Ivy asked, anger and fear mixing in her voice. I was scared, Lila admitted. There was something about him. He wasn't right. I thought Mom and Dad knew what they were doing, but... Her voice dropped to a whisper. He lied. Ivy's mind raced. Lied about what? Lila shook her head, tears spilling down. The package wasn't just papers. It had a USB drive, encrypted. The man said it contained proof that could bring down powerful people. People connected to Silas? Exactly. And after the meeting, we were followed. I saw them, men in suits, watching our every move. Ivy felt a chill seep into her bones. What happened next? Ivy pressed. We got back to the villa late at night. The man met with Mom and Dad privately. I was locked in my room. But I heard shouting, threats, and then silence. Silence? Lila looked away. The next morning, he was gone, and Mom and Dad acted like nothing happened, but I knew. I knew something went wrong. Ivy gripped her sister's hand. You did the right thing telling me. Lila nodded, but her eyes were haunted. I'm scared for us. Whoever that man was, he's dangerous. And now, with those texts, and the break-in at your place, I think they want the USB. Ivy stared at the dark sky above. The weight of the secret settled heavy between them. What if this is bigger than us? What if Mom and Dad are involved in something we don't understand? They are, Lila whispered, but I think they're scared too. A sudden noise made them both jump. A car door slammed in the street below. Ivy pulled Lila closer. We need to be careful, Lila nodded, wiping her tears. Promise me, Ivy. Promise me we'll figure this out, before it's too late. Ivy squeezed her sister's hand tighter. I promise. As they sat together under the indifferent city lights, Ivy realized this was no longer just about stolen money or family betrayal. It was a fight for survival, tangled in shadows from the past, shadows Uncle Silas had left behind. And Ivy knew deep down the truth they sought could shatter everything they thought they knew about their family. The days after Lila's confession felt like walking on a tightrope stretched over a canyon. One misstep, and everything would plunge into chaos. Ivy's phone never stopped buzzing. More anonymous texts, cryptic warnings, even photos of her parents at a private vault in Maui. The more she looked, the more the edges of her family's picture fractured. One evening, while rummaging through her mother's drawer for answers, Ivy's hand froze around something cold and unfamiliar. She pulled it out slowly, a passport, second in the drawer, embossed with a name Ivy didn't recognize. The photograph was unmistakably her mother, but the name read Elena Torres. Her breath caught. Why would her mother have a second passport under a false identity? The same night, Ivy confronted her mother. Why do you have this? Ivy's voice trembled, but her eyes were steel. Her mother's face drained of color. She looked away. I'm protecting you, protecting all of us. From what? Ivy pressed. Her mother hesitated, then whispered, from them. Who? The people who want Silas's fortune. Before Ivy could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced down. Another message. This one more chilling than the last. Unknown number. Your parents made their choice. Now you must decide. The vault holds everything. Go to Maui, or lose everything. Ivy's mind raced. The vault. The hidden fortune. And the growing suspicion that her parents were caught in a web of blackmail far more dangerous than she had imagined. She booked a flight to Maui, determined to uncover the truth before it was too late. On the island, Ivy tracked her parents' movements, following the trail to a private storage facility tucked away in an industrial district. Through the window, she spotted them inside, her mother unlocking a reinforced steel vault, her father watching nervously. Suddenly her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Trust no one. Even blood turns cold when greed is at stake. Inside the vault, Ivy's parents met a stranger. A man in a sharp suit, his eyes cold and unreadable. He handed them a briefcase, and tension filled the room like a thunderstorm waiting to break. Ivy watched, heart pounding. Later, at their rented villa, she confronted them. Who is he? What are you doing? Her mother's eyes welled with tears. He's the one who's been threatening us for years. We thought if we gave him the truth, the fortune, he'd leave us alone. Her father shook his head. We never wanted to drag you into this, Ivy. We were trying to protect you and Lila. But you lied, Ivy said, voice breaking. You stole from me, and now you're hiding secrets deeper than I ever imagined. The family fractured, walls crumbling under years of fear and betrayal. That night, as Ivy lay awake, she realized the battle was no longer about money or family loyalty. It was about survival. And someone was always watching. Ivy's heart thundered as she stepped into the cool, sterile storage unit in Maui, her footsteps echoing against concrete walls. The scent of metal and dust filled the air. This was the vault her parents had so desperately guarded. A place she'd only seen from a distance before through frosted glass and locked gates. Now she was inside. Her fingers trembled as she slid the heavy steel door open. Rows of gray lockers lined the walls, but one stood out, larger, reinforced, with a small digital keypad glowing softly. She typed the code her mother had unwittingly let slip during a tense conversation. With a soft beep, the door creaked open. Inside, stacked neatly, were boxes of documents, ledgers, and, at the very bottom, a small black case with an embossed silver S. Ivy's breath hitched. She pulled out the case, carefully unclasped it, and inside found a USB drive and a weathered envelope marked simply, "For Ivy, when the time is right." Her fingers shook as she inserted the drive into her laptop. A video file opened. The screen flickered to life, revealing a man sitting in dim lighting, older, with sharp eyes and a weary smile. "Hello, Ivy," the man began. "If you're watching this, then the time has come for the truth." The voice was unmistakable. Silas Monroe. "I never died," he said plainly. "I faked my death to escape those who hunted me. Powerful people who wanted my fortune and my silence. I left clues hoping someone I trusted would find them." The video shifted to old footage. Silas handing over bags of cash, signing documents, speaking in hushed tones with unknown men. "But the truth is dangerous," he warned. "And those who chase money will stop at nothing." He looked directly into the camera. "You, Ivy, are the key. The USB contains proof, files that expose corrupt officials, secret offshore accounts, and illegal deals. It's what they want, and it's why your family has been torn apart." Tears streamed down Ivy's face. The man who had haunted their family, the ghost of their past, was alive and watching. The video ended abruptly. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number. Find the files before they find you." Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind her. She spun around. A shadowy figure blocked the doorway. "Looking for answers, Ivy?" the man said, voice low and cold. Before she could react, the door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed her whole. Ivy's lungs burned as she gasped for breath, the stale air inside the sealed vault thick and metallic. Her captor had vanished as quickly as he'd appeared, locking the steel door behind him. But whoever he was, he hadn't taken the USB. She clutched it to her chest like it was a lifeline, and in many ways, it was. It took Ivy 2 hours to jimmy open the emergency override panel with a rusted screwdriver she found wedged between wall panels. When she finally stumbled into the sunlight, blinking and drenched in sweat, the world looked different, more dangerous, more fragile. She didn't go back to her hotel. Instead, she boarded the next flight home with the USB drive zipped into a secret pouch in her boot. Back in the apartment, she found her parents waiting. Lila sat between them on the couch, her knees drawn to her chest like a child. Ivy didn't speak at first. She tossed the USB onto the table like a grenade and sat down. "I found Silas's message," she said. "I know everything now. The accounts, the files, the people trying to kill him, and us." Her mother went pale. Her father leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Then you understand why we did what we did." "No," Ivy said sharply. "I understand that you've been lying to me for years. And now I understand why." Her father exhaled shakily. "We didn't know how deep it went until it was too late. Silas didn't just fake his death. He weaponized his disappearance. He left that drive behind like a trail of breadcrumbs, knowing someone would come looking. We were trying to keep it away from them, from the people who killed his partner in Zurich, from the ones who made us take that Hawaii trip in the first place." Ivy narrowed her eyes. "So it wasn't just about the money." "It was never just about money," her mother whispered. "They threatened Lila." The room fell silent. Lila stared at the carpet. "They said if we didn't deliver the USB, they'd make me disappear too." 1,000 things shattered inside Ivy at once. Grief, fury, guilt. "They chose you," her mother said. "Silas chose you. We knew eventually they'd come for you. We wanted to delay it, not dump it all on you at once." Ivy shook her head. "Well, it's too late now. They're here. They've been watching me. One of them locked me in that vault. I'm lucky to be alive." She stood, trembling with the weight of the choice ahead. "I'm not hiding anymore." Her father looked up. "What are you saying?" "I'm going to finish what Silas started," Ivy said. "But not in the shadows. I'm going public. I'll leak the files, send copies to the press, the feds, everyone." Her mother's face twisted in panic. "If you do that, they'll come for you. You'll have a target on your back." "I already do." The tension hung heavy. Ivy turned to Lila. "But I'm not doing it alone. You in?" Lila nodded without hesitation. "They wanted to bury us. Let's make sure they remember our names instead." The family stared at the flash drive glowing like a fuse ready to be lit. The ultimatum was clear. Surrender it and disappear quietly into fear, or fight and burn everything down with the truth. It was 6:14 a.m. when Ivy pressed send. The USB had been copied, decrypted, and uploaded to every major news outlet, independent journalist, and international watchdog organization on her list. She used a dead drop account, routed through 6 VPNs, praying it would be enough to keep her one step ahead. The file was titled The Silas Protocol. Inside were hundreds of documents, money laundering trails, names of compromised politicians, shell corporations, offshore vault maps, even secret communications between members of a powerful global syndicate known only as the Helix Trust. It wasn't just financial corruption. It was treason, terrorism, murder. By 7 a.m., the world was on fire. Headlines flashed across Ivy's phone screen like flares in the dark. Whistleblower leaks explosive financial crimes cover-up. Global officials implicated in multinational laundering ring. Interpol issues arrest warrants as fallout spreads. Within hours, arrests began. Wealthy elites escorted out of penthouses in handcuffs, boardrooms emptied by federal agents, vaults sealed across the Caymans and Zurich. But Ivy didn't feel safe. Not yet, because the files were only the surface. And she knew it. The next morning, she found her apartment door slightly ajar. Her pulse spiked. She entered slowly, heart pounding. Everything looked untouched, except her kitchen table. There, resting neatly beside her coffee mug, was a small black envelope. No name, no return address. Just a wax seal with the letter S pressed deep into it. Her throat dried. With shaking hands, Ivy peeled it open. Inside was a single handwritten note. "You only found the first file. The rest are still out there. Don't stop." Her knees buckled and she sank into the chair. Silas. He was alive. Still watching, still pulling strings. She flipped the note over. A set of coordinates was scribbled on the back. Remote somewhere in the Baltic Sea. More secrets. More danger. Her phone buzzed with a call. Unknown number. She didn't answer. She already knew the game wasn't over. The following week, Ivy's name made headlines. Anonymous source behind historic leak comes forward. Cameras followed her every move, but she kept her face calm, her answers deliberate. She wore Silas's old gold watch to every interview, a quiet rebellion. She became a symbol, a threat, a target. The government offered her protection. She declined. She knew protection meant silence. Instead, Ivy chose vigilance. She moved like a ghost. 3 phones, no fixed address, encrypted everything. Lila stayed with her at times, both sisters bound now by trauma and purpose. Their parents, facing potential charges, went underground. So much for protection. Months later, Ivy stood alone at a cliff's edge overlooking the sea, the wind biting at her skin. She pulled a fresh flash drive from her coat pocket, the second file. The one she'd found buried in the lining of her replacement gold credit card, the one sent after her original was compromised. Inside it, names she hadn't dared whisper aloud. Technology firms, surveillance contracts, private data trades, secrets that could bring governments to their knees. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "One more file, Silas, and then I'm done." But even she didn't believe it. Because once you open the vault of the powerful, you're never free. You're just a new kind of prisoner.